Hey, happy Wednesday. It is 10:49 Pacific Standard Time, broadcasting live from downtown Seattle from DevHub's headquarters. I am joined again by the very talented Megan from Crowd Content, and today we're talking about enterprise SEO. How do you want to do this?
I think it's great to start with defining what enterprise SEO is. Then we can talk about like the 4 key factors that makes a site qualified to be enterprise SEO, or what you should be looking for as you scale out your website.
Yeah. So, I mean, how I define it, and again, you might define it differently, but again, this is just a conversation for anyone who's watching. Technically, I would define it as at least basically 1,000 pages, and it's not really defined based on like enterprise being like a huge company. We're talking about the pages aspect. So a site having that scale of pages.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay.
So you can be an enterprise company and not be you could have 100, 200 pages. Like if you're a bank, a lot of those pages consist of press releases or financial information or information about the financial advisors. Or you could be an e-commerce store, not eligible for enterprise status, would be like Global 1000 or Fortune 500, but you'd have like 10,000 SKUs.
Yeah.
And so it's really about like creating that theme throughout the site and optimizing the site on an enterprise level for SEO. That's kind of the differentiating factor.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go from here?
So I think
it's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
So
so it's like trying to keep it simple, try to keep it short. Because,
for sure. So we specialize in the content aspect.
Cool.
DevHub specializes in the automation of those rules and optimizing the templates. I think you should be looking at like 4 different factors that really highlight and allow you and your team to focus on different aspects of creating the best enterprise site possible. The first would be, really diving into those keywords. So the keyword selection, short form, medium form, and long form, and breaking out the pages accordingly. So having that like really analytical person dedicated to creating what those keywords are right off the bat is definitely the best place to start. Automated rules, that's really in your domain. So
I would add one more thing, I guess, to the keyword selection part. I mean, like, technically you can find a lot of the keywords too within your own analytics program of what people are searching for to find you. And then, of course, obviously things that you want to better optimize for it. You can also find that too, I'm sure, within your own analytics. In terms of like the automated rules, so like we kind of look at that as like more, I guess, on the structure side. So once you've figured out kind of, let's say, the keywords, and in a weird way, the content, imagery, even like layout of the page, but that's getting more into the template side. Basically, our platform allows you to basically plug in all those inputs and then generate those pages at scale. So all the keywords, all the content, all the imagery, let's say if it was e-commerce, product descriptions, video, everything in there, so that you're able to do that, at that, let's say, 1,000 page level versus doing it, one by one by one by one. So once you've kind of done a lot of your homework, plugging that right into our platform, and you're able to basically generate those pages, which are unique and not duplicative at scale.
Yeah, that's a great point. So that kind of covers like automated rules and optimizing the templates, taking a look at what your timeline is, and then also, are you historically doing these pages one by one? How can we do it quicker? And DevHub's like one of the only solutions to be able to do that in a very easy fashion. So the area that we really focus on content is those fastidious data entry points. So for all those pages, a lot of folks, particularly let's call it like in the e-commerce or manufacturing space, they're getting stock content from the manufacturers and they're just plugging it onto their site. First of all, you're not going to rank, and guess what? Everybody else is getting that exact same content. So at the end of all of this, someone actually has to go in and create that content. So it's divided between, do you have enough in-house writers to create, optimized content that is trustworthy and cohesive throughout the whole site, or would you be using like a trusted vendor to do that and do it quickly for you within your budget? So you really have to create unique content because you have to start ranking and you have to be indexed for all of those pages, and that's super important. Oftentimes I speak with e-commerce sites that are like, we just don't have time. We're okay with the duplicate content. It doesn't matter. And really it does matter, because once you take into account all the analytics that go into play and they're wondering why, their traffic is low or their sales are low, it really comes down to that unique piece of content and making sure that it's being churned out. That's cohesive throughout the entire theme of the site, and also as new products come in, that those are focused on, and not just like taking stock content from your manufacturers. That's like a big no-no.
Yeah, and I also think like yesterday, if you watch yesterday's video, which was around SEO, but like in terms of, I guess I would say like researching the content based on like the intent. Mm-hmm. Like, can you talk about that? Because I thought that was really smart, because it's not content for the sake of content.
No, not
but
anymore.
But it's like you're like doing the research of like, this is what, if it was a manufacturer or whatever, like this is what the tone should sound like, and then being able to write like that. I mean, I basically just said it, but I still think she sounds better. So.
Yeah, Google is really focusing on intent, so they're going to be tracking that. Of course, your keywords are essential for enterprise SEO, but when folks land on your page, they really need to trust that you know what you're talking about. So taking the time to gather that research, be it at a manufacturer level, calling them, or finding that information from credible sources is so important. But then once it's written, it has to be written with like authenticity. And it's really important that it's cohesive throughout the whole site, because if you're comparing and contrasting different products or different locations, the same information needs to be listed, but it's focused on a different product or a different service. So there needs to be a strict template with what the information and content's going on, and that really goes back to the keyword information and what that looks like. So you're reading like the same page in a different location, but it's unique content to that particular product or area.
Totally. So if we're gonna boil, like, you think we can close it out?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, but like say like the simplest scenario,
yeah.
right? You think someone would start with us in terms of defining like the structure, and then they would potentially work with you all to fill in like all those gaps, basically?
Definitely.
Okay, so
it's like you can't. So folks often come to us and they're like, "Oh, we need all this content." And I'm like, all right, well, what do you have your keywords defined? Do you have your rules set? How are you inputting this information onto your site? Like, am I just sending you a massive Word document? Because I don't want to do that. And so we quickly get to know with those types of conversations. So what my pre-qualifying questions are: have you defined your keywords? Have you created a plan? And then also, how are you going to get this content on your site within your deadline? And if they have no idea, I know that this is going to be a nightmare from the start. So I like to come in, around like the 8th or 9th inning to be able to be like, all right, great, you have this information, you know where we're going to get the research from the manufacturers or from these different areas, then we can quickly go to action to create that content. So yeah, totally. Step 1, defining your keywords. Step 2, automating those rules with a platform such as DevHub to be able to do that efficiently and quickly, so you're not like literally copy and pasting these pages. And then also, dealing with those, not duplicate content, but it's the same content you're receiving, but creating it in a fresh, unique way that matches your brand voice across all pages.
Yeah, I mean, you closed it out pretty good.
All right.
Like all I would say is like, I would add. I'm basically going to repeat what she just said, but like even shorter. So we're the structure piece in terms of how you would publish those pages, and they're everything that's going to go into those pages. So, I mean, I always say our part's super easy because, I mean, we built the whole thing to scale, but like scaling with what, and this is the what. And so hopefully that all makes sense. If it doesn't, there's links below. I will link to crowd content and us. And I think that's it for this Wednesday in downtown Seattle. And she's visiting from out of town. Just I like to talk about the weather every time, but like, how's the weather today?
It's gorgeous.
See,
Yeah.
it always is. All right, thank you everybody, and have a great. See you Friday.